Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. This time I wanted to do just a quick little run-through overview. I have posted on my channel before the basics of how to do a guitar setup, but I just got a new guitar, and so I wanted to talk about kind of what's going through my mind. This is literally 3 minutes after I just played it for the first time. I played it for the first time for 10 minutes. These are with the strings that came with it. Now, just to give you a little bit of a heads up just on a philosophical level, I am of the theory that a guitar needs to be set up just over and over again for its entire life. I'm not a believer in set it up once and it's good to go for a long time and then do it again. I'm a believer in doing short, sweet little periodical tweaks over a greater length of time. So that's how I approach it. I've learned to do all these things myself, so I don't need to bring it to a tech to pay him to do it. I can just do it myself, and I have the benefit of doing it bit by bit instead of all at once. So I wanted to kind of share with you guys the thought process there. So first and foremost, when I get a guitar, it all starts with action. And so the way to test that is I will try really hard to get you guys to see this, is I'll set it down at my feet just like this, and then what I'm looking at is this right here, and the degree. So if it's flat, it's like this, and if it's curved like that, or if it's backbowed like this, I'm looking at the angle of that curve. And what you do is you use the string. The string is going to form a perfectly straight line, and that's going to be your reference point. So when you look down the string, I'm trying to position the camera. When you're looking down at the string, you want to look back and forth between the string and the neck itself to see how much relief is in that neck. And that degree of relief is governed by the truss rod. Now this guitar has a truss rod adjustment right here, which is really handy. And so when I look down at this guitar, I'm going to pull the camera back just a second. I see that the neck looks to be very flat to me, which is good. I prefer to have the neck to be almost, so if like 0 is completely bent, and then 100 is completely flat, and then like 200 is completely backbowed. Sorry if you don't know what that means. That means that it would be curving like this. I don't like to have any back bow. I like it to be at about like 95%, so almost completely flat, maybe with just a slight banana in this. And typically what happens is in this area, there will be just a slight curve, and then maybe it'll be flat the rest of the way. So, to me, this neck looks good. It looks fantastic. Now with the truss rod adjustment, if you do look down and you see, oh, it's got too much curve, that would result in very high action. The best way to fix that is just to very, very slowly and gradually take an Allen wrench and pop that guy right into this little hole right here, and then righty-tighty. So that's going to tighten it, which will straighten it or induce this type of curve. And then lefty-loosey will slack, which will let the strings pull the neck this direction, creating some curve. So take that with what you will. There is some personal preference here. I like it to be right at about 95%. So almost completely flat with maybe just a slight tiny little bit of concave banana curve. So that looks good to me. Next, I'll look at the nut. And basically what I'm doing here is, I don't know if my camera will focus. What I'm doing here is I'm looking to see if the nut it has been set up at the depth of the nut slots, and also if there's any sort of binding. So binding occurs if you are tuning and it's like squeaking, or if you're tuning and it's like not really moving, then all of a sudden it makes a big jump. That's binding. And that's usually made out of a poor material. If it's made out of plastic or something like that, it will bind. If you get a nice bone nut and lubricate it, you could even use something like Carmex or lip balm, or you can get some nut sauce, graphite, even from a pencil. All those things will work. That will fix it right up right there. And so the best way to see this is actually, I'll grab a capo. Sorry guys, I've got one right here on hand. I apologize for the video work. And I will actually take a capo and try to put it on either the first fret or the second fret. And see, so what I do is I would take a tuner and I would see, so if the nut action, or if the height of the nut slots is really, really high, then it's going to have a hard time maintaining tune both in an open position and with a capo on the first few frets, because if the nut slots are really high, that means that the angle of the strings is going to be really sharp, versus a good solid nut width will be more just at a gentle angle. Too high of a nut slot will cause a sharp break. And if it's a sharp break, then there's no way it's going to stay in tune. And also, I think it's just a feel thing. I'm not really much for taking measurements. I know some people will actually measure with a ruler the millimeters. That's just not how I roll. I do it by feel. So that's my personal preference. And to me, this nut feels pretty darn good. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is plastic, but maybe someday I will change that. So those are the first two things. Next, I will adjust action, which is done down at the bridge. So action is, I guess, technically a function of all of these parts. So the truss rod will affect your action, but the truss rod is the place to do like mega adjustments, like if the entire neck is terrible, or if the whole thing is really bad, the action is bad everywhere, that's typically a truss rod thing. But if you want to make minor adjustments, then you want to look at the bridge. And so with this one, this is like kind of a tune-o-matic style. So I'm looking specifically at these two posts right here. Now, I don't think that these saddles have any sort of micro adjustment in terms of height. They have adjustment front and back, which is for intonation, which we'll get to in a minute. But these guys right here will adjust the height of this. And I actually am probably going to want to move this up just a little bit. I like my action to be very much medium to medium high even. A lot of times when I have gotten guitars professionally set up years ago before I learned how to do this, the action would be extremely low. Like when I got my Frenzel, or my Ron Kern Barnbuster in the mail, the action was like out of this world low. It was amazing. But I don't actually prefer that. I prefer to have my action a little bit higher. Just with bending and the way that I am very heavy with my right hand, so I like a little bit more action to really let those strings ring out to their fullest potential. So I would actually raise this up a little bit. Now this one looks a little funny. Now I'm looking right here, and it does not look to be like some screwdriver. Typically you'd put like a flathead screwdriver and that would raise and lower, but let's see it. So I think I would have to adjust that with like maybe a pliers or something. But I'll do that at a later time. Just want to let you guys know that I would probably raise this up just a touch. When I was playing through it, kind of in this area of the neck, the notes were choking just slightly. Now, when you have really, really low action, there will be a little bit of kind of rattle or choke on the neck itself, but that will not translate into the pickups. And that's okay. But if it gets a little bit too choky, then the notes actually will die out. I have a video of a Squier Stratocaster that I put some Seymour Duncan pickups in, and you can really hear the notes choking out on that neck, and we actually had to do a lot of work on that one. So anyways, I would play around with this for more of the micro adjustments, and then this guy right here, the truss rod, with the macro, the big adjustments, and use both of those together to really perfect the action. And I'd spend a lot of time on that. That's really where a majority of the setup comes. Next, I will start addressing this stuff. So when I was playing this guitar, one of the things that I noticed, maybe you can hear in the demo if you go and watch it, is about pickup height. So, to my ear, the neck pickup was a little bit hotter than the bridge pickup. Now, there's some physics as to why this is generally the case. So if you look right here, this is where the strings are anchored on the bridge. And so when the string, you can even see it right here. You can see that this right here, the string is moving. It's moving all over the place. But here, because it's closer to the anchor point, the string right here above this pickup will not move with as much force as it will over here, even as it will over here. You can see it here like flopping all over the place, and the closer you get to the point of contact, the tighter it gets, which means it produces less force on the magnetic field, resulting in lower output. So typically you want to have a neck pickup that is wound cooler, but also you want to screw it in closer to the body so that you can equalize the output on both of these pickups. So that's definitely something I would do, and I set that by ear. And you know, again, that's another thing. I like to have balance where the bridge pickup is maybe 5% louder, or maybe 2%, 3% louder than the neck pickup. But that's personal preference. It really is up to you. I would just say play around with it. And this is really easy to do. You just take a screwdriver and you mess around with these screws right here. Pushing them all in will put the pickup in, and raising it will put the pickup up. Also, you can mess with these pole pieces on the pickups themselves. For those, what they do is they set the individual level per string of the pickups. So the idea there is, if let's say you get a pickup exactly where you want it, but the D string for some reason is just getting muffled or lost, maybe, or on the opposite end, maybe the B string is just too hot and spiky, you can use these to control the individual strings if the pickup is in the spot you want. That is typically a very fine detailed thing. I don't typically mess with that a lot, but something to be mindful of. And then lastly, I would look at the potentiometers. So typically, in my experience with import guitars, this guitar was made in China. The electronics really get shortchanged, or they're very low quality. And so what I probably would do with this guitar is I would first make a determination of how badly I want to keep this 4-pot setup, and I might consider moving to a different setup. I might consider doing like a master volume and maybe a master tone. Also, with these semi-hollows, it is a total pain to work in this control cavity, so it's kind of like you're going to do it once and then you're never going to do it again. So yeah, I guess I would decide what to do there. Little things like you can get, if your pots are kind of scratchy, you can get some contact cleaner. I noticed one of these tone pots was a little scratchy. Really, to be totally honest, I probably would just swap these out. Like, pots are about $2, $3 a piece. A new output jack is like $2 or $3 a piece. So very, very inexpensive mod to do. I also really like having a treble bleed circuit, so that is something that I would put on this guitar at some point. Maybe just a master volume and tone with treble bleed, and then I'd leave these other two up for maybe switches where I could do series versus parallel or single coil split. All sorts of fun things I could do there. But anyways, that is a quick overview of exactly how I would think about doing a setup on a new guitar. Just to kind of explain some of the thought process. You can refer to my other video, which I will link in the description, or you can search on my channel for how to set up a guitar. So what I talked about here is what I would do, and that video explains how to do each of those steps. But this kind of gives a little bit of insight if you understand, okay, I know, like, all you really need is like a screwdriver for a lot of these things, and like, you know, raising a pickup height is not hard. But what can be difficult and take years of experience is to learn, you know, how do I make the determination of raising or lowering. So anyways, I hope this is helpful. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.